Hey guys, welcome back to our Guardrails Green Room supplement for our Guardrail series, talking about finances. We're not talking about emotional boundaries. I actually had some people say that they thought that, but it's not. And joined here today with Zach and Meredith, and a lot of our folks have mentioned they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. We have them. They're right here. So we can.
That's us.
I bet you've never heard that. That's not. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
A few times. We're the wrong Joneses.
It's like in school, I grew up, everybody calling me Pete, like, yeah, I never heard Pete Moss. Okay, hey, you guys shared with us about 2 years ago and talked a little bit about Financial Peace University, some of the things you were learning there, and then at the very tail end of the video, you were talking about getting rid of debt, and you were really going gazelle intense. Trying to finish that off, and then at the very end, we dubbed that with 2 months later, you became completely debt-free. So I want to do a kind of a catch-up of your story. So since that time, catch us up with the Joneses.
Sure. So we paid our last debt on the very last day of February 2020. And I don't know if you guys remember the thing that happened in 2020. So 2 weeks later, this COVID thing hit, and Zach owns a gym and they had to shut down. And our whole thought was just, oh my gosh, can you imagine if we still had $33,000 in debt and, we were going into this giant unknown. And so we were stressed, but we just knew that God was gonna provide, and he did. And then 2 weeks after that, the beginning of April, we found out that we had fallen susceptible to the COVID baby, and we had a very surprise pregnancy, and so that was also, well, crap. What are we gonna do? His gym was still closed. We had a vehicle that wouldn't accommodate 3 car seats, and so it was like.
There was a lot that was going on there right as our gym shut down and everything stopped, right? And we just. Like she said, we looked at one another and said, man, I'm glad we don't have any debt. But also we had this great backing in our faith where we had just done all these things and God had taken us through. And we had a conversation I don't know what this year's going to hold, but we know we'll be ready because we've just done this super hard thing. And that's one of the beauties of FPU is that you prove to yourself that you can do really hard things. And in the process, you learn to, rely on God to take you through things. And then this cascade of events took place. But the whole time we were pretty confident, this is crazy. What's going to happen next? But we know we're gonna be okay because of how God's been faithful, and we've done this really hard thing. So we were out without cars. We lost all of our cars in the same month. I think it was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I want to jump back to the gazelle intense because getting ready for all of the fallout of COVID and all this stuff, but. We talk about getting gazelle intense, and I'm going to talk about that from the message. But what does it look like? What does that mean? Does that just mean you get mad at your debt? I mean, what did you literally do to become intense about wiping out your debt?
I think you have to. I don't know the best way to really describe it, but I think so many people they put their restrictions on what they're capable of doing. Well, I can't do that because I don't have the means to get another job, or I can't spend less money here. And I think gazelle intense ultimately is when you come to the end of what you think you're capable of doing, you're like, no, actually, I do have the control to change all these things. I can get the extra job. I just have to, you aren't as restricted as you think you are in your finances. Sometimes you got to make a pretty aggressive and scary decision, and that's when you do that with somebody, it makes it a whole lot easier, whether a spouse or an accountability partner. That helps you maintain the intensity, but the intensity is really kind of letting go of what you think you know and really going all in. I'm not sure if you have anything.
I had a lot of shame coming into it because I'm the spender and he's the nerd of the relationship. And so, I just felt like it was all my fault. And that wasn't true, but that's kind of what the enemy was feeding me, that it was my fault. And, the whole mess we're in, it was because of me. And so I really had to come to a point where I had to identify it as a sinful area where I was not being a good steward. And I had to confess that to God and repent of that and ask his forgiveness. And then from then on, it made me mad. Like it wasn't like, oh, this debt, we'll get rid of it. It was like, no, like we are kicking this out. Like, I think the enemy really likes Christians to believe that we can't do hard things. And so that when God calls us to do hard things, we're like, oh, no. And so I think this was just like the coolest step in our faith journey to say, nope, like we're going to do it. We're going to submit to this process and we're going to do what God's told us to do at whatever cost. And we're going to get it done.
Now, I want to lean into one of the things you said, because when I opened the series, one of the statements that I made was 99% of your issues with money are not financial, they're mental. And because the things that we're telling ourselves in our minds, because you mentioned the shame factor, we're all doing that. We're all saying some narrative in our head, which often we can figure out how to deal with. But when you're in a couple scenario, when you have a spouse and we have to figure this out together, it can shut down the ability to communicate. And I don't think you can do this without talking. Like you have to come to the table and talk. Were there difficulties in kind of coming together? Or was there a defensive spirit?
Oh,
No, well,
I did. I mean, for sure. I remember like he would be like, okay, we should talk about it. And I'm like, you're not my dad. Like, you're not the boss of me. You're not here to police. And it was just shame. And I didn't want to.
So we came in to marry, like we meshed really well. But the one thing we never spoke about was money. Like I had my bank, she had her thing, and we survived. We got along. We made it month to month.
We had a nice fat credit card.
Yeah, and like you said, I think we should do this thing, or I think we should talk about what we're doing, or spending money here. I think I actually dropped the FP. Like, should we take FPU?
You dropped the F word.
The FPU word.
That's right.
Yeah. And then we came back around. She's like, let's take the FPU class. And so we kind of went, kicking and screaming to the first class. And then, honestly, FPU, like, it helped open up that one part of our marriage that we kind of just didn't talk about. So, whereas it could be a point where we had a hard time communicating before, like, when we came together finally and decided to tackle it, it made us stronger.
That we're on the same side.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's actually...
It's fascinating to me because at the end of the day, money affects so much of our lives, but your story is so normal. I hear that over and over, that we talk about everything except for money.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons is that when we do broach the subject, there are so many defensive mechanisms, because we all know, like me included, we all know I haven't done a great job at this, but I don't want you to tell me I haven't done a great. And when you pick that scab, then I'm mad about it and I want to fight,
Right.
And we have the I deserve voice in our head too.
Yeah.
You look around at what's normal, and normal is really people limping through, trying to make ends meet, and, but you're looking on the outside and you're like, well, they have a nice new car. Look at our, crummy $2,500 van that we bought because we needed a new van. Yeah, we needed a car.
That's the other thing. We ended up really enjoying that time where we were at Gazelle, when we were just kind of living on the pennies or whatever that we had. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun doing it together. So it was awesome.
So you can't do that without communicating clearly. But you started getting on the page. You said, we're going to do this together. You got Gazelle Intense. You mentioned that you could do an extra job. You could do something to bring in some extra income. So, finances is not super complex in the sense that I either need to raise my income or lower my expenses.
Right.
And when you're getting Gazelle Intense, you have to do some of both. What did you do to kind of lower the expenses?
A lot.
Well, when we
Eating out was huge for us. I mean, we would, because it was so easy and delicious, and we deserved to.
Swallowed the pride of the name brand product. Like you buy the the Food Lion brand ketchup or whatever instead of like the expensive brand. You can save so much money doing that kind of stuff. But there's like this weird pride factor. Like I abide only name brand stuff, and it's like it's the same stuff.
You don't use Heinz? Is that? Are you?
Oh no! At the rate we go through ketchup in our house, we could never.
That's an easy one. We just didn't travel as much. We didn't go on vacations. We didn't go out to eat. We didn't have as much coffee. Just little things, and saved penny pinched where we could. Just cut down on spending. A lot. It saved a lot of money. And then as you start to do the debt snowball, it's not like that money ends up being in your pocket when you pay off these big debts. And so once you get it going, you have all this extra money to sort of survive. It's not like you're still paying on the same bills and credit cards and you're skimping by. Like you're still able to use that money on the back end. So
something interesting that I noticed is that as a spender, the baby step 2, where you're paying off all the debt, is fun. Like it's like a game, and like it was easier for me than saving, and it still is, because you don't get the money back. It's not like you can take it out of your savings account and do something with it. It's gone. It's spent, and it's like, okay, well, how fast can I get that? I think saving is a whole other discipline, because you're staring at it and you're like, okay, well.
It doesn't go as fast.
Look, no, it's so slow. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the secrets that we don't see when we talk about finances, and the same is true in parenting, and we're going to do that series after Easter. But when you do get on the same page and you start working together, it strengthens your marriage. So have you seen some of the results of it strengthens when we're doing this as a team?
Yeah, absolutely. We're way stronger after doing FPU and actually finally opening that closed door in our relationship, where we feel comfortable talking about everything. It's opened us. We talk about our 5-year plans and our 10-year plans, and what do we want to do? What do we want our kids to experience? What do we want can we plan for our grandkids now? And so we can grow together with our faith through the process, and then we can dream together as well. Like this is the kind of legacy that we want to have for our kids and for our community. And it just strengthens you when you take those strides together. When you go through the hard parts, the gazelle intense parts together, the whole marriage is a whole lot stronger. And it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had already had our first child at home, and we found out we were pregnant with our second child in 2018. And that was just hard, figuring out how to parent and have a healthy marriage. And so I don't think it's a coincidence that, I was nervous to have a second child for, well, if one kid has, made our marriage this much more difficult, can we have another? I mean, what's going to happen when we have another one? And so he was born in September, and then we took FPU the following February.
Right.
And I just don't think that's a coincidence. I just feel like that was such like a catalyst to strengthen our marriage coming into, piling on the kids.
Yeah, and I think FPU, it's a really hard thing to do, to tackle your budget and to do it together. And then we know that going through anything that is to come, the next trial or struggle, that we know that we can do super hard things, and we can definitely do them if we do them together and we're on the same page. And so that's one of the biggest takeaways from the whole process, for sure.
Very cool. Thank you so much for coming in, talking about this. The one thing that I would definitely point out, thank God set you up so that, prior to COVID, prior to that next child, you were getting yourself in a great, healthy position.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to share with folks is that the next thing is coming. COVID is sort of behind us, but the truth is the next pandemic, the next crisis, the next national emergency, the next thing is going to come. And at the end of the day, you have to make a decision that you're going to do whatever it takes to put yourself in a good financial position so that together you're growing closer together, getting through a crisis rather than the crisis stirring up what you didn't address and causing that split. I mean, there's so many that just put it off. They never talk about it. And I'm so proud of you guys because you've done so much great work and it's paid off. And I love the fact that God has set you up for that, but then also for some extra kids too. So that's really cool. Hey guys, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time here in the green room. We'll catch you then.